Faf, if you're looking for me, nigga. Yes, sir. Following the Forrest podcast. Once again, I tell y'all I was going to be more consistent, ain't it? This might be 3 weeks in a row. I'm not sure. But the days of me lying to you niggas is over. I tell y'all we was going to do at least bi-weekly. Look at me. Out here giving it to them weekly, you heard? It's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. Following the Forrest, what the fuck going on, family? Listen, it's been a real unique 2 weeks, right? I say 2 weeks because I guess since I brought y'all the Connie Baba last episode, then I ain't really get to talk to y'all on a personal tip one-on-one, right? So there's some stuff that I ain't really get to mention that I kind of wanted to bring up. We had a solar eclipse. We're gonna make some news. We had a solar eclipse. The sky was weird. I went outside at like 2 p.m. and everything was different. You know what I'm saying? It looked like 6 p.m. I honestly wanted to go home. I went outside, take a little break, look up at the sky. It felt like quitting time. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't. The solar eclipse was unique. It was interesting. Me, personally, I did not have any of those solar eclipse glasses things, the little shades that y'all niggas be putting on and all that. Now, I wish I did, probably, because I made it a point not to look up at the sky while the shit was happening. Not because I buy into the idea that I would have damaged my eyes by doing so, but because real niggas don't take unnecessary risks. And because I wasn't educated enough on what might happen to a nigga, no, I did not look up. But there was a wonderful woman that works at the same place that I work at who saw me outside, and she was like, "Don't look at the sky." And I was like, "Nigga, I'm not." And she was like, "Oh, you could borrow my shades for a second if you want to look at it." And honestly, I ain't want to look at that shit. I really didn't. I had zero interest in taking note of the solar phenomenon. However, I felt like I'd have been rude if I didn't take the shit and look up. So I took the shit and I looked up, and I'm not gonna lie. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. I ain't never seen the sky acting like that. I have never seen my moon acting a goddamn fool the way I've seen it before. The shit was all gilded. Shit was all gaudy and shit. I'm like, gang. I said, that's, all right, you know what I'm saying? I could understand. Sometimes I understand nature. I feel like I was supposed to be a nature-loving ass nigga, like, but I don't really got it in me. Like, it's on me. It's not in me. And you know, if you a real one, you know that it can't be on you. It got to be in you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the type of nigga that like, yo, I wish I could abandon society and go live in a cabin in the woods. But at the same time, the idea of standing barefoot in dirt really terrifies me in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. That's my relationship with nature. It's very, very spooky. Like, I'm sure many of y'all seen Family Guy. I'm sure y'all seen the Family Guy episode. It's like, damn, nature, you scary. That's how I feel about nature. It's terrifying. I'm not one of these people that sits up here and glorifies shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to glorify the bounty of nature. It's not a bounty. Okay? It's not a bounty. That's what people who wear head wraps and light sage and consume tree bark and shit like that. That's what they want you to believe, that nature is just this bountiful wonder that provides for all of us and loves us and wants us all to be healthy and well. Nature is a competitive capitalist society, dog. Nature is the fucking grind. Nature is get along or die. That's what that is, okay? Nature is mommy killed the baby because it smelled funny. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, I don't like all that shit. Like, I don't like how we fetishize real life. Like, we have worked really hard to build these massive structures to shield us from the real world. Because the real world is terrifying. There's no welfare in the real world. It's just natural selection. What are you going to do? You can live a relatively solid, good life as a dumb person in society that we've built, and somebody without the wherewithal to make it happen. As a matter of fact, one might argue that if we were still in nature, there's only one type of intelligence that would matter and that could be appreciated. We now exist in a world where all kinds of intelligence can be appreciated. Like, you can live long enough to display what makes you useful. But the only reason that shit is useful is in the very specific settings that we have created for ourselves. I don't need an architect out in the Amazon. You think those untouched, not untouched, but those tribes that don't want to be bothered in the fucking Amazon, you think that they have some dire need? We need more engineers, we need more architects. I wonder why so many people aren't going into math. You think they give a fuck? There's only one class, survival. You know what I mean? I'm not Joe Rogan, which means I don't think that I belong in that. I'm sorry. And I recognize shit, you know what I'm saying? I recognize shit. Human beings are a member of the genus species, Homo sapien, right? We belong to the great ape family. I understand that. That means that somewhere deep in the recesses of my genetic memory lays the ability to survive, discern berries. This shit healthy, this shit not. Nowadays, I'm not giving a fuck about no fucking berries, gang. I'm not giving a fuck about none of that, bro. I'm not making a hammock out of random fibrous material that I find in the forest or leaves. I'm not sleeping on a bed of leaves. I need a mattress. I'm not that nigga no more, dog. We are not them niggas no more. You understand? I'm not gonna go so far as to say that we have evolved differently, because I'm simply a humble, ignorant Negro and know nothing about that. What I will say though is, motherfucking, 90% of us can't just start sleeping on the floor or start sleeping on grass tomorrow and see market improvement in our performance and in our well-restitude, nigga. It's not happening. It is not fucking happening. So that's my whole thing with nature. Is like, yes, I want a cabin in the woods. Yes, I want to wake up and sniff and go, ah. But you know what? Maybe I have allergies. Do you realize that? We live in a society now, and it's going to sound like I'm talking about some eugenic shit. I'm really not. I'm loving it. We live in a society now where so many of us survive that there are niggas out here for whom the very scent of the natural world can kill them. Yo, my big cousin used to be incapacitated when springtime came. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about it was all he had to make it to school and back home. After that, it was laid up with a wet rag on his face. You understand what I'm saying? All I'm trying to say is that perhaps these things that we create as fantasies for ourselves, perhaps they're better left as fantasies. Because that's how I be feeling about shit. I be feeling like shit is good for storybooks and movies and fantasy land. But like, when we try to implement that shit in our real everyday lives, I just don't understand it. You know what I mean? I give you another example. Like, it's real popular nowadays for everybody to be in a soft boy or soft girl era and everything like that. And I'll only tolerate this and I'll only expect that. And I'd be like, do you remember that you broke? That we broke? You know what I'm saying? You're looking for somebody to take care of everything, a real man to step up and pay the bills. Where you gonna find that at? You talking about a man of a different tax bracket than yours. And a man that hangs out in places where people of your tax bracket can't even go. Might require a membership. You know what I'm saying? You need to take stock of where you at right now, where you think you're going to be in 5-10 years. You know what I'm saying? Then you need to get you somebody that matches that within reason, that you still love. And then y'all need to build together, right? And have the two working functional people in the household provide some sort of security as a backdrop for the existence of the next generation. And then y'all niggas build and so on and so forth. I just think that we all have these ideas about life and where we want to go and what we want to do. And I respect them. Are they based in reality? That's how a nigga like me know. As much as in my spirit, I think it would be adorable for me to be nature man. I'm not nature man. I see an earthworm, I'm out. I was not one of them niggas that'll pick up an earthworm. That wasn't me. I can't do the barefoot tip. I don't even like the beach. I'm wearing sandals on the beach. I don't want the sand in my toes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my get down. Like, I was at a lakeside in socks. We just threw those out. 110%. You think I'm finna get algae on my soles, cuz? Yo, you think I'm finna get seaweed or sea urchin them or whatever the fuck you might have in that fucking lake water? You think I'm gonna get that in my motherfucking... Mind you, I ended up almost drowning. Why? Because I'm not nature man. I'm not nature nigga. I'm out there. I'm at the lake house. Everybody's having a good time. It's like, yo, jump in. You should. And the whole time I'm like, yo, you know what? I don't even do wild water. That's not even my vibe. That's not my bop. That's not my get down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the lifeguard. If anything go wrong... Now, portraying yourself as a lifeguard is a tricky situation when you actually, like, not qualified to be anybody's lifeguard, right? Like, when you say that, you also have to make sure, this sounds counterintuitive what I'm about to say, but just hear me out. If you can't actually swim that well and you're gonna play lifeguard, I think you need to make sure that you're the worst swimmer in the group. You need to make sure that everybody is perfectly capable of swimming, and the only reason anybody would ever look to you as a designated lifeguard to do anything at all is in the highest of high level emergencies. And even then, several of the other capable swimmers will already be making their way to the situation, and you can probably just get away with dictating things from the shore. That was my bop, right? A few hours in, I get comfortable in the wild water environment, and kayaking looks interesting. From the outside looking in, kayaking on a little lake and everything like that, it looks interesting. You see motherfuckers on the boards and shit like that. I'm seeing motherfuckers standing up on the boards, propelling themselves with their little fucking rowers and shit like that. You know, their knees doing whatever. Everybody's styling out there. So I'm like, okay, at the very least, I could probably jump out there and get my little yak on. You know what I'm saying? So I end up in the kayak, right? I go link up with a couple of the homies out on the lake. They got on they in those little fucking tubes, they floating on them, not tubes, the tubes, the little round shits. They floating in them, they hanging out, having a good time. So I'm going, moving. I decide to make a turn. I'm starting to get comfortable, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking my shit and all that, you know what I'm saying? I really do this. I'm starting to get comfortable, and I make a turn, right? Now, I had it in my head from jump. I'm like, yo, if anything go down, I can't tread water, but I can swim. Right? It's a strange thing. I don't know where the wires got crossed, the way I didn't figure out how to do what I needed to do. But like I said, your man can't tread water, but he can swim. Laps, back and forth, whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? So as far as me in an emergency situation, I have mentally trained myself to understand that as long as I am a swimmable distance from the shore or something that I can grab onto until help comes, as long as that is the case, I'm okay. So the human brain is a marvelous thing. I'm processing shit at light speed. Boom. I know before I hit the water that I'm going to hit the water. And I'm already ready. I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm swimming. I hit the water, already swimming. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody know I don't fuck with wild water though, right? And I'm not going to lie. I probably didn't look like an Olympic swimmer, right? It probably looked like I was panicking. I wasn't panicking, but I was focused. You see what I'm saying? And somebody go oh, he's not going to make it. I'm like, oh, shit. Right now in my head, I was calm and collected enough to listen and take in the information, right? Which kind of lets me know, I think I'd have made it. I think I'd have made it to shore. Somebody else said I'd have made it to shore too, but we're not even going to go there. I go, what? Now I'm thinking, what must it look like to them? So I turn around. But in order to turn around in the same place in water, you must be treading water, right? So as I turn around, I realize, yo, I'm treading water. I don't know how to do this. Now I start sinking. Coming up. Sinking, coming up. But I still got this, right? I definitely still got this because I'm holding my breath. I have not swallowed no water, right? I'm holding my breath till I come back up, gasp, go back down, come back up. Now, the last time I come back up, I'm not gonna lie, shit gets a little dramatic sometimes. The last time I come back up, one of my boys is on his way to me, right? And I look him in his eyes and I go, help, and then I go back under. You know what I'm saying? That was a real dramatic situation, you know what I'm saying? Now, finally, he gets to me, boom. He's trying to help me, but then somebody come through nah, fuck that, right? And they come through on one of them little boards and shit like that. They just on their knees on the board paddling that shit. Boom, boom, boom. They get to me. They yo, grab on. So I grab on to the underneath of the board, right? I look you know what I mean? A little baby gorilla or some shit, hanging on to the belly of the moms or something like that. And then I get rolled back to shore like that. It was the most embarrassing thing that I've been through in a very long time. I was soaking wet, you know what I mean? It was tough, right? Obviously the socks were ruined, but the socks was already ruined because there was a lot of wet dirt around there. It's wild water, but this is what I try to tell niggas, that these are the types of things that can happen to you when you decide that you're going to be the person that you think you are in your head and not listen to reality in the world around you. I had no business jumping on that yak, gang. It shouldn't have been me. 110% it should not have been me on that shit. But you know what? It was. Why? Through nobody else's fault but my own. What would have happened had I not got on that shit? Niggas would have been oh, Leak really don't fuck with water, huh? He's scared. And that's the thing. Why was I running away from hearing the truth? I am scared. I was scared. Why would I not want people to know that about me? Why would I want a bunch of people who I consider friends around me in an area where there's wild water present? Why would I not want them to know that I'm scared and uncomfortable? That's probably what saved my life. I still maintain that I would have made it to shore, but there's no guarantee. So perhaps there's an alternate reality where Leak don't make it to shore and he lose consciousness. Cause everybody think he good, cause he the lifeguard. You gotta be real careful with how you interact with these ideas that we come up with about ourselves. Like, yo, I would do good as a this nigga. I would do good as a that nigga. But have you? Would you? What happens now? Have you put this theory into practice? Probably not. I don't even understand how we got here. I don't even understand how this tangent has led me to this. But I know that I was talking about the solar eclipse, and it brought out another thing that frustrates me, right? About anything of note that seems to happen in the world today, right? I get to see in the weird conspiracy theories and everything like that, and how, you know what I mean? I just want to know if y'all motherfuckers ever require a break to recharge these cockamamie ass theories that we come up with about everything. And how many do you have to live through? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening here? Is that like with each successive generation, there is now a group of people who have not lived through one of these and therefore like must put stock into something? Right? Like, were the people that believed that the world was going to end in 2012, were those the same people that believed it was going to end in the year 2000? I don't know. Or was that a group of people who were not around for the Y2K shit and therefore were all too ready to internalize the idea that perhaps the world might end, right? That's probably something that's like that has like to do with like this inner ego that we have, where like everything is like very egocentric with us, where it's like, of course I would live through the end of the world. Like, do you know how unlikely it is that you're gonna live through the end of the fucking world? Can we have certain conversations? Do you know what type of main character energy you would have to think that you possess? Outside of the threat of like nuclear warfare and all that other shit, like some shit is like legitimate, right? Like if you're afraid that that we are gonna fuck things up in such a massive way that our world as a species ends, that's different. But like the actual fucking cold end of the world through some like mystical, supernatural, or natural event. The idea that you would live through that, like the amount of generations that have come, the amount of generations that will come, like who do you think you are? That has to be, you have to have like a lower chance of living through the end of the world than winning the fucking lottery, right? Like it's not gonna happen. And even some of these theories that we come to, oh, when the eclipse happens, this is gonna happen. Oh, when this happens, that's gonna happen. Like I feel like there has to come a time when we get tired of this shit. And of course I know that there doesn't have to be, right? But I think people have always had a desire to feel like they know things that other people don't. And that's one of the things that the internet has like unlocked on like a really high level, right? Because these things would just like exist in like books that were published and got really popular and stuff like that. Like this is not a problem that is unique to the internet or the age of the internet. It's more so a problem that is magnified manyfold by the existence of the internet, where it's like as soon as you see like forum culture start like popping up and shit like that, you see an over propagation of these theories, right? And them reaching like different generations, like things that died a generation or two ago, making a comeback. Why? Because somebody like uploaded onto like an internet forum, and now a new generation is able to interface with it. And interesting is interesting, right? And when you make something that plays really well on the underpinnings and the fears and the insecurities of society at large, I think that that is when you truly spark something that can really take hold and really have like a lot. That's how you get your Illuminati theories, and that's how you get your lizard people theories and everything like that. Is I think that all those things kind of stem from some type of, and honestly, like science, a lot of it is science fiction, right? But like science fiction specifically has like transformed the way that we, almost religiously, right, has transformed the way that we view society at large, the way that we view the problems of the future. And a lot of it is that some of that shit is too good. Some of that shit is too fucking good and too well written and plays perfectly into a lot of what we actually are feeling and dealing with. Like 1984 and all that shit. Like, that's good shit. That's good fucking shit. And the problem with that is we evolve with this stuff and we evolve with these ideas, right? And some of it is relevant, right? The idea that like for decades now, like decades, probably possibly a century at this point, that people have been worried that like robots, right? What would happen with the rise of artificial intelligence and robots and stuff like that? And again, that's why science fiction, I think, has become the most popular way of fantasy leaving the pages or the screens of fantasy and becoming something that entrenches us and captivates us mentally, right? And with our imaginations, is because it's so much closer to the reality we live in. I think that when just playing fantasy was super popular, like people were worried about witches and all that other shit, I think that was closest to reality. That was the science. That was what was going on. Like whether it was real or not, which I would hope we all have like a working understanding of what that shit was. But like whether it was like real or not, it was close to what people were dealing with on the daily. It was what would influence their lives. These were things that they had always had to deal with, and that as far as they were concerned, they would always have to deal with. So anything interesting, right, that would happen, like a lot of the time would be an extension of that lens. So science is science, and science fiction is kind of the lens through which we look at the world right now. Like when we have a problem, we look to science to solve it. Like what we have faith in the future is that science will continue to advance at exponential rates, right? We are secure in those things. Therefore, our insecurities branch off of that. And so everything is science fiction now. Like we're all worried about aliens. And that's the thing too. Like these things don't feel loony, right? The way that they reach us and the way that we then interact with them when they're like just like cockamamie theories and shit like that, like conspiracy nuts, that's outlandish. That's gotta stop. Something has to happen there. But on its face, a lot of the things that people are worried about are not without basis. And if you're a good storyteller or if you're a good writer, what you're doing is taking these very real feelings and these very real things that we interact with, these things that we face today, and using them to create something totally different and totally apart from those things, while also being extremely connected to, influenced by, and representative of what the things are. And quite honestly, I'm starting to understand what Cato was saying when he was on that last episode about like how listening to this podcast is hilarious because it's really like just a fucking the musings and the rantings of a madman. And the truth of the matter is, it is, right? Like 20-something minutes in, I don't know if this one's getting shared. Like, I know this one's getting put out. I don't know if this one's getting, like, shared and advertised, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if this is the best episode to catch a motherfucker in. Like, it's, we, you know what I mean? This is really, you had to have already been here type content. Because we going deep into the abyss of what is my broken mind. But I can remember being young and like when I would first begin to interact with some of these things. And like I said, like for me, I kind of always had a decent bullshit meter. And if I couldn't make something jive, I wasn't comfortable internalizing it or making it like some kind of part of my identity. But I remember around like middle school, certain people starting to really push the idea that like, yo, you know, all these rap artists are like worshiping the devil and like they're like in the Illuminati and they're Freemasons and yada yada yada, right? Like, and I remember being like, where are y'all hearing these things? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then it would always be like, yo, check this YouTube video out. And this was like early YouTube. And also we were kids. So there wasn't really like a healthy skepticism. And I remember at the time, like the videos made me uncomfortable, but they didn't make me believe what they were saying, right? Like, I couldn't explain why this was bullshit, but like, they were like, what I would later come to understand is that there were like certain hallmarks of like legitimate information, or at least information that you could interact with in a legitimate fashion, that simply weren't there. Right, and it's just, that's fine, right? I think that that's a part of the language of how we express objectively factual information and stuff like that, and why we try to write in scientific languages, or why we try to write things in certain formats if we are conveying information that we consider to be important and factual, is so that it will kind of stick to people's craw differently. And that when people recognize, it's just barriers. You put barriers in place so that people can understand when they're digesting information that perhaps they should be taken seriously versus ones where they shouldn't, right? And a lot of those barriers sometimes aren't always the best. Everything is nuanced, right? Sometimes a person may understand concepts but not speak that language, and therefore people don't legitimize what they're saying or doing or take it seriously. And that, a lot of that is the point of education. Education is, a lot of it is you getting a good base of knowledge and stuff like that. And then a lot of it is you learning how to, number one, pursue knowledge and attain knowledge. And number two, how to speak the language of knowledge. And in that sense, be able to properly disseminate it on your own and be taken seriously, or be able to move in certain circles where that knowledge is the basis or the barrier. Wow, that's a lot. But I say that to say, like, that's what'll happen subconsciously to filter a lot of that nonsense out, I think, for a lot of people, right? For those of you who don't really fall for nonsense and have a high kind of healthy level of skepticism about information that you come across anyway, but can't really explain it, I think that that's kind of what it is that there are like certain checkpoints and check marks that things in your brain, that your brain is looking for in order to identify whether or not it will seriously interface with any information. And if things don't meet some of those criteria, it's filtering it out subconsciously without like you even understanding it, right? It doesn't mean you can't be fooled, right? It doesn't mean you can't be fooled. Actually, it means you got to be even more careful, because when you are fooled, you will be hella secure. You will be hella secure in your ability to internalize and filter out nonsense. Where like you won't even consider the idea that you're being misled, because you don't think you're capable of being misled in some of the ways that you see others be misled. But it's important. It's important. You may not fall for as many things, but what could happen now is the thing that you do fall for, you become some grand champion of, and I listen. We're getting into some real weedy areas here, but what I'm trying to say is that you have this kind of proliferation of nonsense and fake information, or should I say, false information being purported as true information. And you see a lot of this stuff with at least my generation when you try to trace back some of the origins of a lot of these theories and ideas. They go back to things people saw on like internet forums that they were never able to kind of track down and verify the source for. Right, where it was like, okay, there's this book that does this and does that, and then like, or the book will surface, right? The Willie Lynch letters, right? Like, a lot of people believe that there's some sort of veracity to the idea of like Willie Lynch, and like that the popular Willie Lynch letters that are like supposed to outline and detail the breaking of slaves. A lot of people think that this is like a real historical text written by a guy named Willie Lynch, and there's really no evidence of that. Not to say that not to say that it can't even be like a collection of known practices for breaking slaves that was like coalesced into this like work of literary art that was like very representative of that, and that was like supposed to be understood to be that, right? Or maybe even a part of the artistic liberty was to pose as somebody. I don't know, but maybe also it was just something that somebody thought was an interesting thing to do, and a social experiment, whatever. I don't know. All I know is that, like, when you talk about that, you're right. When you talk about that as something that is like real and produced as we are to understand, as we are meant to understand it to be, when we buy into that stuff, you're now talking about something that's not real, right? As if it's real, even though it's attached to a concept that is real. In regards to which most of what you're saying is probably on the nose or accurate, or the fact that this isn't real doesn't necessarily discount or turn into nonsense what you're actually saying. You could actually still be making very, very great points that are objectively, that have a measure of objective truth to them that people would be better for hearing. The thing is, you disqualify yourself in a lot of ways when things like that happen. Not that they don't happen to everybody, not that they haven't happened to people of significant intelligence and acclaim, just that you open yourself up to many, many more questions about the veracity of anything that you've said, right? And that's where I think that this stuff is dangerous, is because it preys on real things, right? Like, people are afraid of the existence of secret societies that they don't know about, that are not subject to their influence, that have massive power over the course of their lives and society at large. And those are things that are worthy to be suspected and worthy to be wary of. And I think it was Kennedy or somebody like that said to be wary of secret societies, and we need to be more transparent with a lot of what's going on, and a lot of stuff tied to the military industrial complex and shit like that. Or like, that stuff is real. That stuff is real. Like the devil worshiping Illuminati that you speak of is almost certainly nonsensical. But like the idea that there's a conglomerate, what Cat Williams said, it's a consortium, nigga. The idea that it's a consortium, even though Cat Williams be bugging the fuck out and what the fuck he talking about half the time be nonsensical in and of itself, you know what's not nonsense? It is a consortium, my nigga. It is a consortium. As crazy as it sounds to say that, because it's almost irresponsible to say that, because then everybody be like, yeah, I know what the consortium is, and this is it, and I'm trying to tell y'all niggas, you just know what I mean? No. That's not what I'm doing. I am simply saying that there does exist a consortium. Would I call it a cabal? I don't know. Depending on what they doing over there. I mean, depending on who all gonna be there. What part of the world we talking about. What type of political affronts may or may not be occurring. I don't know. And what I'm not about to do is talk out of turn and get my skin snatched. You know what I'm saying? We ain't doing no shit like that, but I'm just saying. It feels like internet culture has exacerbated the problem. Like, the obscure things that you would see on forums and YouTube videos have entered the public consciousness now, right? Where these are no longer... They were never nipped in the butt, right? And I don't know how you nip it in the butt in a country where the education system is what it is and so radically different, depending on what part of the country you're in, depending on what neighborhood and what part of the country you're in, right? Like education has just not been a priority for a large number of citizens in the United States of America, and therefore you see the fruits of it, right? You see a populace that is not that doesn't have as much agency, and some might argue that the whole idea was to move towards having a more unwashed general mass, right? Who you're able to mobilize and galvanize in a lot of ways. Like perhaps we're not heading towards the most intelligent and flexible and mentally flexible generation of men and women, but perhaps we are cascading towards the most easily mobilized and manipulated, which is no small feat, right? Which is not to trivialize that, right? Which is not to say that other generations, no matter how intelligent you may think they were, no matter how discerning you may think they were, which is not to say that they were not subject to mass manipulation of the highest degree, right? But perhaps what we are seeing is a softening of the collective brain of the nation. And I don't know. Because when I say that, that make me sound like one of them niggas. That make me sound like one of them niggas that I'm not kooky. Now I'm saying it's very important. I'm quirky, but it's very important for people to understand that I am not kooky. I'm certainly not cockamamie, right? But these things are no longer, I don't think they're like these things that you can ignore that exist in like the dark underbelly of American culture. Like, nah, like this shit is bubbling to the surface, right? It's created this strange ass economy where some people watch the YouTube videos and some people watch the YouTube videos about why y'all niggas are dumb for watching the YouTube videos. Seriously. And if you understand anything about just the YouTube economy and what's going on there, then you know that what I just said makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I don't know what to do with that. And it's wild. It's wild. I'm the most annoying man you'll ever meet because it's wild that the solar eclipse has brought me here. But it's just always strange to me when I see these events. That for me, people I respect are vulnerable to a lot of strange messaging, especially in times where something that they don't understand is going on. But then there's something else where I think maybe people are just looking for magic in their lives. Seriously. Maybe I'm just overthinking it and I'm thinking way too hard, and your average motherfucker is just not as miserable as I am, right? And is looking for some kind of magic in their life. It's like, yeah, I know it's a game. I'm playing a game, but let me play it, please. Life is hard. Then but I feel like that's like such a small percentage of it, where it's like, how many people? This is nonsense. We're entering into nonsense territory, and I feel like I haven't put enough thought into this off mic to sit here and give y'all fucking 40 minutes of it. So I think we got to keep it moving. You know what's a strange thing for me is public transportation. Public transportation is always so weird to me, I think, for a few reasons. Number one, as a New Yorker, I think I'll always have, as a New York City resident, right? New Yorker feels sometimes very self-indulgent, whereas like everyone in New York is not having the same experience. Everyone in New York City is having a similar experience, but everybody in the great state of New York is not having the same experience. Motherfuckers be like, as a New Yorker, and be talking about New York City, and it's like, this is the most singular and unique experience in the state of New York. Like, it is nothing like anywhere else in the state of New York. So, I want to be real clear when I say shit like that. But as a person who grew up in New York City, I think your relationship, or has lived in New York City for any real length of time, your relationship to public transportation changes. But I think it's important for if you were born and raised here, because it sets the foundation for your understanding of public transportation in general. And it gives you a few falsehoods. Number one, that public transportation is inherently dirty, unclean, and uncomfortable. Number two, that you just have to put up with the wildest and weirdest shit if you're going to take public transportation. And this is not just true of New York City, right? That second one, that happens a lot of fucking places. The first one too, right? Just not as often as you might think if you were from a place where that is the norm, right? And also that public transportation is extremely reticent and readily available and just constantly running every fucking 5 minutes. You miss your train, it's probably coming in 5 to 10 minutes. You miss your bus, it's probably coming in 5 to 10 minutes. That is not the way of the world. That is the way of New York City. But I'm also... Public transportation is so wild to me, especially in New York City, where there's just more unhinged people walking around living relatively normal lives than you might expect. New York City is a powder keg. Do you understand what I'm saying? What you have is a significant population of people who are wound way too tightly, who are a botched sick day away from being evicted out of their home. People who are 7 wrong words away from caving someone's entire shit in and going to jail for a significant amount of time. Just walking around wearing debt shackles. You understand? This is what this city is, and they're all on the fucking train. And we're not even talking about the worst offenders, like the actual crazy people who have given in to psychosis and are just clearly existing in a different dimension than you. But I mean normal people who live relatively normal lives. This motherfucker shows up to work every fucking day. He has a schedule, a child that he's taking care of. But he's got this fucking speaker. He's got this fucking speaker, and he's gonna play his favorite song out loud as he fucking can, and make eye contact with you, as if to let you know that he refuses to kowtow to your expectations in public settings. Or like wild ass combos had at insane decibels, like people talking about the type of shit you want to whisper about. This is the type of shit that you would want to whisper about, like, and you don't even want to confront motherfuckers because everybody's fucking rude here, right? And nobody can take constructive criticism from a stranger. Like, if you're in New York City, I would not offer constructive criticism to a stranger. The other day, a woman had her bag open. A woman had a bag open, and I could see a book in the bag. Now, I'm an empathetic human being. I also had on a backpack. I also keep books in my backpack. I would be mortified if I lost a good book I was reading in the street, realizing that my bag was open. So I had to first of all, we was never going to tap this lady on the shoulder. That was wild. We was never going to do that. We don't tap people, and you know what I mean? That's like the last ditch effort. Like, it's not like I've never tapped a shoulder, but it's more like I'm not going to be able to get out this train if you don't recognize that I need to get past you and you have headphones on. So I tapped your shoulder. But like, I'm a large black man. You know what I'm saying? We're not in the business of tapping small white ladies on their shoulder in the street. That's strange, right? So I got to get up next to her. I got to get it next to her. I go, excuse me. Doesn't even look. Doesn't even acknowledge me, but I know she hears me. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I know what needs to happen here, right? I know you're nervous. I know you don't know that if I'm crazy or not. This could be wild. I could be asking you for money. This could be anything you don't know in New York City, right? So like, I recognize that she's heard me, but she will not acknowledge me because she does not know if I'm full of shit. And so I say, hey, your bag is open, your thing's gonna fall out. And I just zoom past her and like, you know what I mean? I look back and she caught it. She was like, oh, okay, cool. And I knew. I'm telling you, I knew she heard me. But I also know in New York City, listen, your eyes go cold and dead. Whenever a stranger asks you something on the street as a New Yorker, unless because that's the other thing I was gonna say. There's like that other class of New Yorker who's also wound tightly, but enjoys a comfortable life, much more comfortable, and might be in a much better mood if you stop them on the street. Might still have places to go, not as nice as you'll get in other states, but like, I got time. I bought some. You know what I mean? You got those guys, but like, for the most part, when a stranger interacts with you on the street in New York City, like your eyes go dead, they gloss over, and you just like, yes, like you're still trying to be polite, maybe, depending on who you are, but you're like, and you're just waiting. You're waiting for the catch. This is a catch city. It's a catch type of town. You need to understand that there's a catch. 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? This is not the city where you put on a nice pair of sneakers and 9 out of 10 people who stop you are trying to tell you have nice sneakers. A few people might tell you, but like, you're not going to assume that, right? That's not what this is here, right? So it's a different ball game on public transportation when you add that, right? You've got I had a train stop for sanitary reasons on my way to work one day, and I was floored. Stop for sanitary reasons. Do you understand how unsanitary New York City public transportation is in the first place? Like, this is the city where there are homeless people will fucking stonewall out a whole fucking train car with their stench alone. And I'm not talking down. I'm not being pejorative to the homeless. That's not what I'm doing. I'm simply stating to you a fact. A fact that some people may be uncomfortable to state because nowadays, sometimes people like to infer. A lot of people don't state things blankly anymore. Like, I'm just being honest here. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this is the city where a motherfucker can hold an entire train cart hostage with his stench or with his cock. It depends on the type of day it is. Is it Tuesday or is it Thursday? I don't know. Right? But in that world where I've literally seen the homeless person piss in front of me, and that train kept running, I just needed to know what could possibly have occurred in one of the cars of this train where it has now stopped for several minutes for sanitary reasons. And the guy had to get out of his little train compartment and go to whatever car it was and handle business. There is a thick layer of dust on everything in the New York City subway. Okay? I'm being real honest with you. Run your finger on a train car one of these days. Please don't. Don't you ever do that. It's wrong. In a post-pandemic world, I beg you not to. But I'm just saying, if were you to run your finger on damn near any surface, I don't know why you would do this, but were you to, you would understand. You're not even actually looking at the shit you're seeing in the subway. This is some weird dystopian, interdimensional shit. There's stuff you can't see. You're not seeing things for what it actually is. Right? All these colors are they're not the actual color. Nothing makes sense down there. We are all mad here, and we exist in this public transportation world. In New York City, we're begging for help, and no one will give it to us. The MTA is where faith in public infrastructure goes to die. The MTA is where faith in public infrastructure goes to die. Again, I'm not a politician. I don't understand none of these municipal mannerisms, my nigga, or provincial provisions, nigga. I don't know. That's not who I am. I'm just telling you that the New York City subway transit system is where faith in public infrastructure goes to die. It's simply that. It's where you go to watch your tax dollars pissed into the proverbial toilet bowl. It is. And I don't make the rules. In fact, I don't complain about the rules. It smells like you're not supposed to be down there. You can taste the tetanus in the air. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you exactly what's going on in the world out here. It's different. It's different shit. It's different scenery. I'm like, you go to other places and you're like, oh, how does this work? Even something as simple as seeing a video of a Japanese subway station where everybody's on the right side going up or down. Right? And even if the other side is clear, nobody's breaking rank and file to go get around and shit. I could not imagine that. Do you know how many situations I've been in where I could just simply walk down here and get my train if we followed the fucking rules and you came up on the right and I went down on the right? Nah, motherfuckers is doing what they want. The subway station that I go home from work every day, there's people sleeping out there. Using the bathroom. Sometimes there's shit everywhere. That's it. Sometimes there's shit everywhere. I walk past people. This is not a New York City exclusive here. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm not passing judgment. There's no judgment on any of the people that I'm speaking about. I walk past people shooting up. I walk past people doing that. But that's you know what I'm saying? I used to be a salesman at a specific company who shall not be named. And we had guys that would shoot up in our parking lot. A private property. Again, I'm not the nigga telling you that the police should be called to abuse them niggas and that they don't deserve to get the real proper help that they deserve, and that a lot of our shitty systems that aren't doing as good a job as they could are not the reason that a lot of these people aren't able to get the help that they need. I'm not arguing any of that. I'm just telling you the reality. There was a lot of shit. Right? As happens when a lot of people on a lot of drugs who don't have anywhere to shit, when they congregate in places, sometimes you get shit. Sometimes we'd have to step over and around shit to get to work. It is what it is. I'm built for this. That's different in New York City. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different. Like, the shit and piss ratio, you know what I mean, in public places on public property is different. A lot of the time you be walking through the streets and you be like, oh, that's man shit. I'm not dog that. That wasn't a dog. That's man shit. You know what I'm saying? I know man shit when I see it because I'm a New Yorker. You know what I mean? You might go other places. You might not be able to tell. If you're not a hunter or something like that, you might not be able to tell. This wasn't no animal. This is a man shit. This is man shit. And that's what living in New York City is. You develop a relationship with man shit. It's different. It's different. I don't expect motherfuckers to understand it. I don't expect motherfuckers to be able to learn from it neither. What's a bathroom? What is a bathroom in the MTA? I'm so serious. They should make a list of stations with working working order bathrooms. But before they make that list, they should have a specialist with the absolute bare minimum to go in there and deduce, like, what is the absolute bare minimum, even below standards of any other public institution? Like, give them a curve, grade them on a curve, where they could be significantly worse than restaurants and bars or whatever. Let them be able to, like, have a grade that would fail them in any other place, but, like, can still pass them. And I promise you, go check out MTA bathrooms that are considered usable, the few that exist, and then eliminate the ones that can't pass that lowered bar. And then put together a list of usable MTA bathrooms based on that standard. And I promise you, the amount compared to the amount of stations that have bathrooms or were designed to accommodate bathrooms will floor you. It will floor you. It was one of the most dystopian things about the pandemic was seeing the city make an organized effort to sanitize subway stations. Lasted all of 30 seconds. However, it happened. You understand what I'm saying? This took place. First time in my life. You know what I'm saying? The MTA will just take away a station from you for years. We're working on it. We're fucking working on it. So it's gone. Parkside Avenue is just gone for my entire middle school career? What are we doing? I don't know what we're doing. But God bless the city. I do think it's genuinely probably dangerous to breathe through your mouth in the subways, though. Like, if I was you, if I was giving advice to somebody that was moving to New York City or I was going to spend a significant amount of time in New York City and plan on taking public transportation, I don't think you should be breathing through your mouth down there. It's definitely not safe to knuckle drag, but you for shit show shouldn't be breathing through your mouth down there and all that other shit. Also, rats. If you're afraid of rats, which a lot of people are, New Yorkers have like this 2-level phobia of rats where it's like we're afraid of them, but we're not. Like, if we see them in the home, we're terrified. If it actually like touched us, we might be terrified. But, like, we would not be able to physically get through our days if we had, like, the same type of crippling fear of rats and mice that most people do. Like, you will see them. They will come dangerously close to running across your foot as they frolic between garbage bags that are laying on the streets. It is what it is. There are certain blocks at certain times of night that belong to them. And you need to announce yourself and step very hard, you know what I mean? Create all the vibrations so that they know you coming, so that they can get out your way and shit like that. And clear a path for you, my nigga, because you do not want to disrespect them. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you ain't never... You understand? And that's how I'm gonna leave that. That's how I'm gonna end this fucking podcast. That's how I'm gonna leave it. I just want you to understand that there's 2 types of people that will listen to this podcast and make it this far. Nobody. But if you did make it this far, there's two types of you. There are those of you who are from New York who everything I just said makes sense. And those of you who are not from New York who are questioning. Maybe some of you are more seasoned. Maybe you're not questioning because you understand what goes on behind the curtain and shit like that. But some of y'all are like, I thought this was the greatest city in the world. Me too, my nigga. But at the end of the day, Fav. You dig? 100 years or better. We outside. You know what I'm saying? Had to get out something this week. I don't know how y'all gonna feel about this episode. I don't even know if this is gonna be one of the episodes that ends up getting like real promoted like that, just because it's real neurotic. You know what I'm saying? My dog got me feeling a little self-conscious. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm looking at them like, damn, do the people think I'm crazy? How many of y'all are listening to this podcast just like, yo, I know this nigga's gonna break. I know I'm gonna read something online on the news about this nigga. He gonna lose his mind. I'm listening to a guy who is 10 seconds away from losing everything. Faf though.